Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I do thank you for letting me come now. We are in the middle of the Armed Services markup, so it was for good reason. Today's hearing on the S-681, the Blue Water Navy Vietnam Veterans Act of 2015, is a very important piece of legislation that I've talked to veterans over the last 10 years about this piece of legislation. It would ensure that thousands of brave veterans who were exposed to Agent Orange during the Vietnam War receive VA care for illnesses related to their Agent Orange exposure. Agent Orange was dangerous. It was toxic. It was poisonous. It filled the air and poisoned the water and severely damaged the health of the people who were exposed to it. The U.S. government has recognized the harmful effects of Agent Orange since 1960s, and the VA actively provides care and coverage to many soldiers who were exposed to Agent Orange. The problem we face today is that under current VA rules, the only U.S. veterans who are counted as having been exposed to this deadly chemical are the people who were actually on the ground on Vietnamese soil and the people who served on boats on Vietnam rivers. But the current VA rules exclude the thousands of Navy veterans who were stationed on ships just off the Vietnamese coastline. This doesn't make any sense, and it isn't fair to these men and women. Agent Orange did not discriminate between those who stood on boats on rivers and those who stood on boats off shores. So why should the VA discriminate between the two? Because of this arbitrary and bureaucratic rule, thousands of our Navy veterans are suffering. It's time to right this wrong. Let's cut the red tape that's causing additional suffering. Bobby Condon is one of those veterans. He's from Brooklyn. He joined the Navy when he was a teenager, and he went to Vietnam at the age of 18 because he wanted to serve our country. Like countless others, Bobby was exposed to Agent Orange in Vietnam. He served on the USS Intrepid, which is now a world-class museum on the Hudson River in New York City, which my little boys love. Bobby moved propeller planes and bomber jets on the Intrepid's flight deck. These planes had dropped Agent Orange, and after their missions were done, still contained its residue. And it was Bobby's job to handle these planes. Bobby was a serial nail biter, and he believes that Agent Orange toxins seeped into his body when he bit his nails. Bobby is in his late 60s now and suffers from leukemia, a disease linked to Agent Orange exposure. He's been dealing with it for almost 20 years. So what do you think the Department of Veteran Affairs did when Bobby first went to them for coverage? They said, sorry, your boat was here, not here, so we can't help you. Sorry, you didn't have boots on the ground. All those blue water Navy veterans like Bobby were being let down. Bobby said it best. He said, all I wanted is what I deserve. We have an obligation to give back to the brave men and women who risked their lives for us, because each day that we delay passage of this bill, Vietnam vets continue to become ill and go bankrupt from trying to pay medical bills because they're unable to receive coverage from the VA. Mr. Chairman, because of this urgent issue, I request that your committee mark up this legislation and expeditiously report it favorably to the floor for consideration by the full Senate. I'd also like to add to the record remarks by Senator Daines, who is my co-sponsor of this bill. He's extremely grateful that this hearing is being held, but he fundamentally believes that our veterans don't deserve subpar care. He believes it's unacceptable that a technicality in the law and the dysfunction federal bureaucracy has resulted in the prolonged suffering of thousands of our nation's heroes. He knows this legislation would make a difference. I submit his statement for the record. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for your indulgence.